make myself be.
Well,
We're live.
we are live now.
We
are live now. So you can adjust yourself as much as you want. You can just move yourself around and just
I
be
want it
just
to be.
like,
I want it to be closer to you. No, I want it to be closer to you. But if I move, Anyway, we're here. We're live. We're going.
We are going. So welcome everyone to number 3, Parenting Beyond COVID, with a wonderful friend of mine, Katarina. Hi, honey.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on. So we were just talking before about this, and so we've covered different things with parenting. And what I wanted to look at today, I watched this thing on YouTube before, and it was this panel of doctors, and they all stood up and they were talking about COVID, and they were talking about the lies of it and what it actually is and what they would like to create. And one of the things that they said at the end was, which I just loved, was we don't want to live the new normal. We don't want to live the old normal. We want to create a better normal. And I was like, that is so brilliant. It's not the way I would put it, but it had the energy of, we don't want this anymore. We don't want this reality that we've been living, where we get lied to, where we have been taught, rather than question, let's look for the answer. Let's look for the answer so that we never have to question. Let's believe in lies so that we never know what's true. And it's like, and this is, and through no fault about not, but it's like, this is what we pass down through generations to our kids.
And also, I would say that one of the things, because since I'm a mother of a teenage daughter, so one of the things that seems to go on for teenagers.
How old is she now?
She's nearly 18. Like, she's 17. Wow. And like she turns 18 in January. So she's, on the verge of being an adult, obviously. So one of the things that I've been looking at is, it's tricky when you're becoming so aware of everything you're supposed to be, and so aware of everything that actually is going on around you, that all those lies that you're talking about, all the things that they crash into the reality they've been taught is real from this, while growing up. So a lot of teenagers get depressed. And I think part of it is this. It's that part where there's so many lies and there's so many things that they're not even sure what is possible or what's not possible. And there's no straight path anymore. It's not like you go this way and then everything will be okay. That's not what's they know that. And then they don't know that. What do you call it? A better normal. Like in that video that they don't know. That's what's required, a better normal, not a new normal or back to whatever was before COVID or whatever was before when our parents were young, which is that, like, let's go conservative and let's just go back to make America great again, even though I don't live there. Yeah. But that's not what they're looking for either. They're not looking for make whatever was before great again, because they weren't there. They're looking for something different.
Yeah.
And so I totally, and I watched that video too, and it was one of the first ones that actually made me go, okay, people are waking up in a different way, but people are waking up to actually asking for something that's never existed before. And as a parent, that's what I would like. A better world, a better normal, a better something.
Well, and it's interesting too, because it's like, for me, like with being a parent, like what I did a lot with Nash was, when I'd go to talk to him about stuff, I'd look at it and go, okay, so how would I talk to myself at his age? Because it's like, you're talking to a teenager now who has all the technology. They're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're doing all these things. They're basically, a lot of them are basically living on their phones and their computers and online. So they have all this stuff. So they're seeing all this stuff, and it's like, so they're going down this road, and then they're going, oh, why am I like getting heavier and heavier and heavier? And I feel like I'm getting further and further and further away from my reality. But the thing that I learned over many, many, many years of doing normal was, the further I got from my reality, the longer I did that, the longer I tried to fit in, the more normal it started feeling. So at the start, when we take these massive turns into, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore, like it's freeing, but it feels so uncomfortable. And for kids, when they do this, like they're fitting in, they've got friends, everything's just normal and easy. And then it's like we kind of get like us, we get complacent. We get out of this place where we're asking questions. We go, oh, well, everyone else is doing it. Why shouldn't I?
Well, and I think also, I know Nash is a little younger, but what I realized with
He's
the
15 now. I can't believe it.
he's 16. Oh my
15.
God.
He's almost 16.
Yeah, you're getting there.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that happens is, which, is teenage years is also the resistance and reaction years. It's the years
Yep.
where you have to have something to resist against, to fight against, to react against. So, and then with all that in search of information, like that continues goes around. So you have to find ways to actually get through that is not when you're telling them what's true, because that's never going to work with a teenager. They're
Never,
like,
ever in a million years is that going to
they're
work.
like humanoid times godzillion. Like anything you tell them, they won't do. And
Yep.
so you have to find ways of like really manipulation with teenager is A and Z or whatever you say in English. It's like,
So let's talk about that part, because that's huge, because that's the thing
yeah,
that like a lot of us do with teenagers is we go, don't do that. Now, as a humanoid, now I don't know if we've talked about this on the Facebook series yet, but what we have found out is there's two species on the planet. Well, let's just start with two. There's humans and humanoids. So humans are the people who are in constant judgment of everything else, always looking for the answer, never want to change. Humanoids are, if you're listening to this, pretty sure you are one because you're looking for something different, but you're the person who's always judging yourself. Now, no separation doesn't mean anything, just an acknowledgement of what is. But it's like, so as a humanoid, if someone tells you you can't do something, number one thing you do is you do it. But how many of you guys out there watching this right now have been told not to do something, and then you go, stuff you, I'm going to do that anyway. This is what our kids do. But with what you said, Kat, with that, like the resistance and reaction to it is well, what I mean, the biggest key to this, the biggest thing that's going to set you free with this is allowance.
yes,
Being an allowance of it, and going, oh, okay, how do you see that turning out?
Yeah.
And then when they're like, what? You should be telling me not to do this, and you're like, okay.
And the other part that I've discovered lately, which is a really cool part, is this: we've talked a lot about not having to be right. That whole right and wrong. Because if you are in any way right with a teenager, they will go and do the opposite. So it's also this thing where you are actually willing to be wrong. You don't have to be right. And then you're willing to let them choose whatever they choose, whatever that's going to create. Like maybe not if they're going to kill themselves, but anything other. Like you have to be willing not to push your rightness on them, which is one of the best practices I've ever had about this right and wrong thing, is to be willing not to be right as a parent. Because as a parent, it's kind of like ingrained in you. That's your role. You know better. That's who you are by definition. Yep. As a parent, that's your archittype. That's who you are. You know better than your kid. And
it's your job. It's like how many of us have decided that it's like, for me, it was like, if I don't get this right, then I'm going to screw my kid up. Now, I judge myself for 15 years, and then he's still making choices that are screwing himself up. So I'm like, that probably wasn't my best choice. But it's one of the things that we've been so entrained with as parents. Like, I remember when I was reading books when Nash was really young. Big mistake, reading parenting books, by the way.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, pretty much how to parent, like how to do everything else. But it was like, so I was reading these books and it was like, okay, so I have to get this. This is the right way to do it. This is the wrong way to do it. So it creates this separation between right and wrong. And you're always judging yourself, because as a parent, come on, we all think we're wrong. Yes. 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Tell me a parent who doesn't think they're wrong all the time as a humanoid. I don't know any.
And the other day I I was cooking and I was like I was cooking and I was thinking, oh my God, I haven't really taught Millie how to cook. Like, I should have taught her how to cook. She's like nearly 18. She should know how to cook. And I should have taught her. My mom taught me how to cook. Why did I not tell her how to cook? What's wrong with me? I'm like a bad parent. And then, these things happen, they pop all the time. Things that I should have done. Now she's nearly grown up. Like, I've lost my chance. I didn't teach her this.
Yeah.
I didn't teach her that. I didn't show her this. I didn't show her that. And then like, I had to like really, okay. So what's really actually, what really matters? What matters is that she knows her and that she's happy. That's like all that matters. The rest is just bullshit. She can learn that on her own. Like you say, she can learn how to cook on her own, like we do everything. And yet it keeps popping. Like it's the thing that what am I supposed to do as a mother? And what haven't I done? And now it's nearly over.
Yeah, I know. No. But it's like, that thing, it's like that you said, it's like it keeps popping. It's like, because the same thing happens for me. I mean, I woke up yesterday morning at 4 a.m. and I woke up feeling like this pile of shit was on my head. And I was thinking about Nash and, how he's now in Australia and he's living with my mum and he's made all these different choices. And I was going, I've left him and I should be there for him. And what have I done? And I just like went into this massive head trip. But what we do with that is we just compress. Like you feel your world shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. But in order to prove that you're any kind of parent in this reality, you have to compress into it. And it's like, so I was going, wait a minute, he has choice too. What am I doing with this? I'm giving him no choice based on the judgments that I have. And I was like, but that thing that you said, when it keeps popping, because it doesn't matter how much you work on this, there's still going to be stuff coming up.
Yeah.
There's still going to be stuff coming up and you've got to be willing to catch it and go, okay, am I compressing right now? If you feel your world shrinking and you're compressing, okay, so if I was to expand right now if I was to expand and look for what was true for me right now, what would I choose? What's a different choice I have available?
Exactly that question. So the question I sometimes ask is, if I were being me right now, who would I be as a parent? Like if I was being me, like fully in totality right now, who would I be as a parent? And that usually goes, okay, I'm okay. I'm still being me as a parent. Well, the contraction comes from when I'm trying to be something else as a parent, when I'm trying to fulfill the roles and whatever I've bought from somebody else, what a good parent is. But what if I was willing to be a crappy parent? What if you being me is like an awful crappy parent? And that's okay too. So, and it does, like you say, it does take that, you have to catch it all the time. It doesn't really, it's not like it goes away. It's more like a continuous like dance with who you would like to create yourself as a parent.
And a continuous question.
Yeah. A continuous question.
Because the only way that we compress also, you can only compress into a lie. You can't compress into a truth. So it's like, that's the other part of catching it, is being willing to go, okay, so what's the lie here? The lie is that, well, whatever it is you're dealing with, but say for me, for example, what the lie is that Nash doesn't have choice.
Yeah.
So as soon as I go into validating the judgment that I have that he doesn't have choice, because as soon as we go to I don't have choice, that's a judgment. That is not an awareness in any way, because we all have choice constantly.
And you know what? We also make them, when we do that, when we claim they don't have choice, that we're the ones that's screwing up their lives, we're also making them very small instead of just a being in a younger body, like in a age-wise younger body. Because they always have choice every step of the way, just like we did when we were young. So that part, thank you for saying that, because that's like a superior point of view that we then put on them instead of realizing they have choice.
Well, we project it at them, and see, that's the thing. Like when we do projections and expectations, and then we go, okay, so they don't have choice. So I'm projecting at them that they don't have choice. In order for them to either align and agree with that or resist and react to it, they have to separate from you. But then they have to judge themselves for the separation, which makes them compress into your reality. So it's like we're playing this constant dance with them going, okay, I'll expand if you expand, or I'll compress if you compress. What if I expanded into the invitation to show you that you are who you are, and that's okay?
Yeah. And, you know, it's funny, like sometimes even this with, I was looking at what you're saying with yeah, I'll expand if you expand.
Yeah,
It's one of the few, it's, it's one of the relationships in my life where I tend to buy whatever goes on for her. And somehow, like you're saying, like, okay, I'm going to be, because that's going on for her. I tie it very closely to what's going on for me. It's like, I won't really allow, what if we allow their space? Woo, that's keep changing. And then our space keeps changing. And then instead it didn't have to be locked together. So
yeah.
that part is truly like, how to allow your kids to be whatever space they would like to be, small, big,
Well, you know
scrunchy,
what?
you know?
You know what I realized with you saying that, because it's like, if your kids are going through something, and we're kind of looking at the teenage thing right now, but it's like,
Yeah,
if they're going through something, it's like, in order to define what they're going through so that you can help them, you have to put it through your world and go, oh, I've been through that too, so that's what they're going through. They're
yeah,
depressed. Oh, I remember when I was depressed, it was because I lost my boyfriend, or I lost my girlfriend, and I did this and blah, blah, blah. That's why they're depressed. So they're going through the same depression that I was going through. And what we do with that is we define what they're going through so that we know how to handle it, rather than go, what's up? What's going on for you right now? What can I contribute to? What can I be for you right now to help you through this?
you know, when we do that, when we define that, we also define it. So even if it wasn't that was going on for them, we already defined it at that. I remember
Yep.
when Lily was much smaller, she was a bit bullied in school. And I immediately went to that was the kind of bullying that I had experienced. So
Yeah.
I defined it for her and tried to defend it and everything. And she resolved this all on her own. Like she didn't need me at all. The only thing I created was like a bigger drama because I was being like tiger mama and was going to go in. She just started to play with all the boys and for
Yep.
about half a year, and then that was all over and it all disappeared. And but she had the tools that she required to resolve it. And if I had gone even further in there, I would have defined it for her, and it would have become my drama replayed again, like kind of like a
Yeah. Well,
repetition
you
thing.
can't change it once you've defined it either. You can only
No.
change it. You can only change it within what you've defined it as. But I just realized that too, because it's like, I mean, I remember when Nash started school and I hated it. I mean, when I first went to grade 1 at school, I used to run away from school crying because I hated it. I was just like, where am I? What am I doing here? Too many people, and I hated it. So when Nash started school, I was going, oh my God, he's gonna hate school. It's gonna be so hard. For the first year of his life, it was exactly the same as what I'd been through. And I
Right.
didn't realize at the time that I was projecting that on him. And that's what we do with kids. Like,
Yeah.
we're going, oh, this is going to be hard for you too, or this is what school's going to be like. So I want to ask the people who are watching this. I want to see if we can do something here. So um, what part, what are you hoarding from childhood that keeps you projecting the difficulties of life upon your children so that they can't have the freedom of living? Are you choosing everything that is times a godzillion? We destroy and uncreate it. You
Yes.
got to pop me. I can't
Yes.
do
Right now I'm
both.
getting back pop up all night shorts, boys and beyonds. There's Thank you. I was like, oh my God, this is a new mission for me, Brendon. Thank you. I will remember from now on.
Now I have to
I,
try and remember it. Let me do it one more time. So
yes.
what are you hoarding from childhood that keeps you projecting at your children the problems of life so that they can't choose? Well, let me do it a different way. So that keeps them from choosing the expansion of living. Everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and uncreate it.
Yes. Right now I'm getting back pop up all night shorts, boys and beyonds. You
Wow.
know, um, There's one comment in that thread who's saying, I feel I learned so much more from my kids than I have taught my kids. And I
Yeah.
so agree with that, Susanna. I find that I've learned so much more from
Yeah.
my daughter than I've taught her. Like she is my greatest teacher of consciousness in my
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
continuously. So yes, totally.
But that's that space of too, like, if we all had that, it's like, because that doesn't create this separation between parent and child. Because what we do as parents, I think I talked about in the last one, is we go, okay, in order to be a leader as a parent, I need to be in charge. And it's like, as soon as you take on that point of view of I need to be in charge, you've just eliminated learning. You've just eliminated what you can receive, because in charge from that position, you can't receive. You can only deliver. And that's what a lot of us do as parents. We're looking at what we can deliver rather than what we can receive. And it's like, because I'm the same. It's like, I was always like, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So you brought it up briefly at the start with not looking at your kids as kids. They have a small body, but they're infinite beings. Like if we truly started looking at that from that place now, and especially with what's going on in the world, with all this stuff, as an infinite being, you have infinite perceiving, knowing, being, and receiving. So as a kid, even if they're a 6-year-old, do they only know what a 6-year-old knows? Or do we project at them, and does the education system project at them that they should only know what a 6-year-old knows? My question is, what do they know that we don't question?
Yeah, or ask about. So one thing that's really cool about that I've been noticing lately is that there are things that, like with life and experience, creates wisdom. Like there's things that you learn through
Definitely.
living that you know,
Mm-hmm.
and that. So now when my daughter and I have conversations, especially of things that goes on in her life, I'm very. I learn, I learn to be in the question all the time because the
Huh.
question is, okay, what do you know? Can I add something? What do you get about this suggestion to add? Like it has to be,
That is a brilliant question, though. What do you get about this suggestion to add?
yeah, because
What would you add to this?
yeah, and what can I add? And then not assume that that addition actually makes it greater from
Mm-hmm.
what she knows, because she may know something that I don't know. Like, and she has so much more knowing about her life and what goes on in her life and in her world. I mean, I have like a tiny bit that I see as a mother. She has, it's her world, it's her
Yeah.
life. She
Yeah.
knows so much more. But that also be willing to contribute that in that question, then you have that simultaneity of gifting and receiving, and that builds this trust that I think is one of the, if you would aim for anything with a teenager, I would aim for trust. That
That's the
trust.
true leadership side, though, because that's not taking the in charge position. It's not
Yeah.
making you better than them. It's like I learned this really well from Gary Douglas, and it was
Yeah.
like I was having a conversation with him once, and that you said that you just jogged that then when you said that, we've lived longer, you get wiser as you live longer, you learn different things.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him once, and I can't even remember what the topic was, but I was like struggling with something. And I was asking him how he had more ease with it. And he said, don't worry, I've just had more years on this planet. And when he said it, I went, oh, that so matches the energy of it. Because what I'd done, and I don't, what I'd done in some way was went, oh, well, I'm an infinite being, I should know everything that, it was almost like using infinite being against myself.
Mm.
Where you do it from, rather than the place of what he does and what I watch him do is one word out of someone else's mouth will spark an awareness in his world. And he'll
Yeah.
go, oh, that brings up this. And it's like, that's that willingness to use, to have everyone on the planet be a contribution to what we can know. Like if we could teach our kids that
Yeah.
everything on this planet can contribute to, what do you know? And this is like, I'm really grateful for this conversation, because I wanted with this one to really go to the next level of this. Like, I mean, we can talk about parenting all day long, and
Yeah.
how they're annoying shits, and how you've got to take them to school, and what you feed them, and what time they should stay up until, and how much YouTube they should watch, and all that stuff. But it's like, but let's get underneath all of it and look at it from the place
Yeah.
of like educating them on what's beyond what they're being told. Like if kids learn that they could receive, and that like they could actually receive, they could actually contribute, they could contribute to creating a greater world, then what question would that put in their world?
And also, because exactly for me, this whole, and now since my daughter is a little older, it's also a little different. And one of the things that I really perceived with her is when I ask her for advice, that just changes her world. And I don't mean I do it just because I have to. I do it because she knows things. I ask her for advice on a lot of things because I know she has this acute awareness around things. Like she knows instantly. And I mean, she's grown up with me. I've done Access since she was 6 years old. So she's been in this like all the time, not necessarily being to classes, but been in a home that like uses these tools all the time. But her awareness is so acute that often she will know if should I go this direction? She's like, no, that's not going to work for you. I'm like, okay. Okay, I'll go in the other one because I would say 99.9% of the time she is correct and I'm like not. So, and that has created something for her because it's created this sense that she can contribute, that she can give, which then slowly, hopefully opens up to even more receiving. So yeah, totally. There was a question here from somebody who said, how do you perceive that it's time to make an intervention and not continue into allowance?
Well,
you go.
I would say with that is it's like, if you look at it and go, okay, if they choose this, what's their life going to be like in 5 years? And if it's like, I mean, I remember with my son Nash, it's like I taught him, okay, I wanted to teach him how to make choices for himself so that he could start figuring out what was true for him, what his reality is. And one day he came to me and he said, Dad, I want to move schools. I want to go to this different school. And he was currently in a private school, great school. He wanted to move schools to this public school that was where his friends, a couple of his friends were going. At that school, they take drugs, they skip school, they're violent, and they had all these things. And I looked at his future and went, no. So I said to him, no, you can't. But that was that place of knowing when he was creating destruction in his future. And when I had to step in and go, that's not going to work.
And I want to add something to that, because when I was a teenager, there was this time where some of my friends wanted to take a car and drive down and celebrate Midsummer, which is this huge drinking thing that we do in Sweden. And I was like 16, 17, and I was going to lay in the back of the car, like in the kind of like a car with a, I don't know, closed back. I don't know what it's called, like a van. And it was,
like a sex van?
Yeah, kind of. And I was quite innocent still. And I so wanted my parents to say no. I asked them because I told my friends that I wanted to go. And I really, really, really wanted my parents to say no so I would have an excuse not to go. And they didn't. And I did go. And it did not turn out wonderful at all.
You mean you knew?
Oh, I totally knew. And I was using them and I was counting on them to say no. And they didn't. So they taught me a lot by that. And I also, when I look at this with your son, like when he asks you, what if he actually did know? What if he actually did need you for you to be the one choosing in that moment? He was actually asking for you to make a choice for him because it was a choice that he needed you to take. So I'd say there's no easy answer to when to intervention, to go to intervention and not allowance. You have to be in the question there as well, like all the time.
I want to add something else to this, because it's like being in the question, but also being the parent.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to be willing to be the parent. And that's where you got to look at it and go, okay, am I trying to be a friend here or a parent? Because you still, like, one of the things I've run up against with doing like the Conscious Parents, Conscious Kids class and stuff like that is there's such a fine line that people draw between allowance and being a friend with their kids or being a parent. And it's like, because allowance is not being a doormat either. You've got to recognize, like, it's not going, because I mean, It's like I've told stories before, and people are like, oh, so you teach your kids question and you give them choice, so that means they can just do whatever they want. No, that's not teaching your kids question and choice. That's being a doormat. That's not being allowance. That's not being a parent. You've also got to look at it and go, okay, what's this creating? What am I creating with this? Am I being a parent right now? Am I showing them something greater? Am I empowering them to be greater? Or am I just trying to be their best friend?
And sometimes, like, it's also this allowance. Acceptance is so important, because if you're just being a doormat, that's not going to work for you in the long run. You are going to explode on your kids if you're doing allowance as acceptance and doormat. That's not like a sustainable thing. And it's so the thing is also sometimes it's like, this doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me that you put all the clothes everywhere and you never, like, it doesn't work for me. I don't care. Like, this is not okay. So then, what else is possible? What's required here? How can we live together?
Let's talk about that thing that you said. This is not a sustainable thing. Let's talk about that, like parenting as a sustainable thing. And because I've got people who I've watched do this friendship thing as parenting, and I'm like, that is going to backfire on you. You might have your best mate now while they're 8, but when they're 13 or 14, you have a serious problem on your hands right now, because you haven't actually educated them with the fundamental aspects of what it is like to be certain things that are required to still function within certain systems. Because that's the other thing. It's like we talk about, your kids are infinite beings and empowering them and stuff like this, but they still need to know fundamentally they still need to know how to function in certain systems, like education, families, with friends, like there's certain things like that they need. So it's like the long game of parenting in order to create that sustainability. Let's talk about that, so that people actually can sustain parenting throughout 18, 20, 100 years, because you never get rid of them.
Well, I love the long, what did you say?
The long game. Most people play parenting as the short game, though.
Yeah. And it is like you're even, yes, you're a parent, for 100 years, definitely. And you're also, the long game is really, what kind of relationship would you like to have with your kids also when they become adults? They're still your kids, but they are adults. So you are creating the relationship. You're creating the future with your kids now. With every choice you make and every way you be, you are creating the relationship you're going to have with them 20, 30, 50 years from now. So it's definitely the long game. And that's one of the
you're also creating the relationship that they're going to have with others.
Yes. Yeah. Because they learn. That's one of being a family is really like a training ground for every single
training ground for insanity
relationship you have.
Yeah.
So and that's I would say that's the one thing to look at, like, what is this creating for the future? What is my choice here creating for the future? You can't, well, actually, Gary would say you can, like, every single choice you make are creating for the future. And when I was listening, he did Shannon, his 2 daughters, Gary Douglas' 2 daughters, Shannon and Grace, did an amazing podcast. I don't know if you talked about it on here. I would so recommend it. It's on Shannon O'Hara's podcast channel. And they talk about what it's like to have Gary as a dad. And it's amazing the way that he was as different as a parent as he is in everything. And he never told them, he never chose for them ever. They always had to choose for their own. They said it drove them nuts sometimes that he wouldn't choose for them. And it made both of them amazing beings. And the other thing I just want to add something. The other thing they said that stuck with me so much is they said he was a different father for both of them. He was completely different the way he raised Shannon to Grace, because they are different beings. Therefore, they need different things. This is why parenting books don't work. No. Because every single child is a unique being, and every single child requires something different from their parent. So anyway, I was very excited by this podcast. I think you should all listen to it.
It's brilliant. But it's the thing, the thing you said there with like at times they were so frustrated with it. They're like, won't you just choose for me? Like, but the thing you said before about when you went on the trip and you wanted your parents to choose for you, if they would have said no, you wouldn't have gotten that awareness that didn't work for you. And that's the
No.
thing with our kids is it's like you get to keep that forever. Now
Yeah.
you've got that awareness. You're never going to do that again. You're never going to choose like that again because now you're aware of what that choice created.
Yeah. And I'm actually even aware of the energy that I
That's the
knew,
big thing.
that energy of this is
Mhm.
not where I should be going. I knew that. And I now know that energy. And this is long before I started with anything like this. Like, and I still knew. So yes, they actually by allowing me to choose, they opened up a whole new space of awareness for me that has served me very well, actually, in a lot of times where I nearly got into something or nearly went somewhere where I'm now like, oh, no, I knew this is not where I should be
Isn't
going.
that, it's interesting though, because it's like those moments when it's like when you talk about you learn the energy like that, what a gift that is in life. Like you like we those one moments, and that's like when you were talking before about every single choice creates the future, but there are big choices that we have
Yeah,
as parents also where it's like you just like, oh, I know this isn't going to turn out well, but I know I have to let them choose it. They're
yeah,
the times you need to let them choose it. And this is why protective parenting doesn't work, is because we disarm their awareness. We disarm it, and when we disarm it, they doubt it. So everything that you've done to disarm your children, to disarm, and please, the other thing I want to say before I go into this part, if you're trying to make yourself wrong for everything that you've done in the past as a parent right now, can you destroy and uncreate all that shit, please?
yeah. If you're trying to make yourself wrong for every time you choose for your child, would you uncreate and destroy that too? Right
Right
on
and wrong, good and
that.
bad, pardon, pock, all nine shorts, boys, millions. Because it's like I can feel you guys doing
Yeah.
that stuff. It's like when we go down these, you're like, oh, but shit, yesterday I like didn't let them choose this, and now I should. No, it's not about that. It's recognizing that every 10 seconds you have a different choice available. Every
Oh, and
10 seconds you can be a different parent. You can't look backwards if you want to create a different future with parenting. Please get this part. You cannot
and
look backwards.
and you're not finished. It's not like you're perfect now, and now you have to prove you're perfect by making
No,
the right
I'm still a
choices.
shitty parent.
And we're still training. Like we're training on being a parent. I mean,
I
I don't
gave
mean
up.
just Brendon and
I
me. I
gave
mean
up.
all of us.
No, I'm kidding. I wanted to give up many times, but I haven't.
Oh, you
So,
were on
but
some other
yeah,
track there. Oh,
I was gonna. So everything that you've done to disarm your kids' awareness, so that you could protect them from what you were aware of, that didn't allow them to have the awareness, where you destroy and uncreate it.
right, wrong, good and bad, Papa Call Night Shorts, Boys Wheels. And the other another thing that comes with this, like being willing to for them to choose. The other part that I've noticed is I kind of enjoy my daughter happy. So when she's sad, I want to fix it.
Uh huh.
I just want to fix it. So what I've realized lately is that some of the times when she gets really sad, like when she has things up with her friends and they're mean or, all of that coming up, that's actually part of her learning. That's part of how she learns those energies that we just talked about. She needs to learn what kind of energy a person that will choose to do this against her, for her, to her, whatever. She has to learn how to know all those energies, and sometimes that's not totally fun. Sometimes that will,
And it's not comfortable.
no, it's not comfortable at all. And if I keep trying to fix it, that doesn't allow her to actually have those experiences, which is what makes us kind of wiser and more knowing with how people function around us. Like one of the things we admire with Gary is that he will know how any person functions by just talking to them for like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And it comes from being willing to be totally aware of every single energy and every single who they be. And that's something that we're all training on, including our kids.
Yeah.
So this was right with this, and I'm not getting. Sometimes that's actually okay. This had to happen, so she would learn that this is actually how this kind of person functions, or how this kind of situation turns out. Like you're saying, put yourself in a situation, it turns out like crap. Well, then you know that that's like choice creates awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness does not create choice.
Well, and also if you don't carry forth what you've defined your kids as, like if you don't go, okay, well, my kid was this today, so they're going to be that tomorrow, or they were that yesterday, they're going to be that today. That's the place that creates the allowance for them to be in a constant state of evolution. They can evolve because you're not projecting at them, well, you're a little shit yesterday, so that means you're a little shit. No. See, another thing I want to say with this, one of the quote unquote mistakes we make as parents is we go, you are being mean, you are being unkind, you are being this. And kids, what they do is they start going, okay, this is me as a being. One thing I would like to just change the perspective on with that is you are acting like a little shit right now, and be willing to call your kids on that. Hey, you're acting like a little shit. Is that really what you want to choose? And what's that creating? Not your being it, because that locks it in and they go, oh, okay, that's another part of me that's wrong. No, it's something that you can change based on what you're choosing in the moment.
I love that, Brendon. That little switch, a word from being to acting, suddenly makes it that 10-second choice, which they can choose something different in the next second.
Well,
and it doesn't lock it in. It's so true.
Well, I want to say that it won't work on you as parents, though. You can't use it on yourself. When you go, like, let me give an example on this, because it's very obvious. When you go, I'm being upset. How long does that upset last? At least a day. Now let's switch it and go, oh, I'm upset right now. How quickly can you change it?
And
you can change it instantaneously based on the willingness to see that every single act is an invention that we use for whatever it is. But our kids are doing the same thing. They're going, how do I get what I want? Or how do I control this person? Or how do I do this? If we start seeing that, imagine if you grew up as a kid and you knew that you had 10 seconds to choose. And you went, oh, I was just a little shit. Now I'm going to choose again. Or that created this. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to choose again. And you actually saw that you could evolve in every moment and never had to stick yourself to the past ever again.
And it gives you it's such a great thing as a parent too with your kids. So I can actually use that to, oh, look, I was acting like an idiot parent. Like that was an idiotic way of me to even treat you that much. Like I was acting like that. Now I can choose something different, which takes you out having to defend whatever you did. You can just say, oh my, wow, that was an interesting choice to act like that in that moment.
And you don't,
that wasn't what you required. I'm like,
and that thing you said there takes you out of the place where you have to defend.
Yeah.
That's the place where you get to have total vulnerability, because when you don't have a reason to defend, you don't have to put walls up to anything.
Yeah.
So you get to have total vulnerability, but you also teach your kids that. When you go, I mean, I've said to Nash so many occasions where I was like, oh, I was just an asshole. I apologize. And he goes, that's okay, Dad. But it didn't stick me or it didn't stick him because we didn't have to put walls up to it.
I do that a lot, and it's helped so much in the way that we can be with each other, because I'm like, oh, what I did, even like if it's a day later, I can go, hey, that way that I was acting with you last night when you came home so late, that was not what you required in that moment. There was something else going on. And then suddenly, then she can do that with me. She can say, hey, Mom, like I didn't mean, I was really annoying when I did that. I'm sorry. I can do something. So it creates like a completely different way of being with each other, with trust again, like the 5 elements of intimacy with your kids.
I was just thinking that too, because we've roundabout talked about all of them without talking about them specifically. But it's like, but you just hit the trust part perfectly, because it's like, what a lot of us are taught, and I don't know if I've talked about this, is it's like trust is, okay, I'm going to trust my children to come home on time. That's not trust. That's being stupid. Trust is they're going to come home when they're going to come home. And if you're willing to actually have the trust, then you can know also. And it's like, I mean, the thing we talked about with the acting and being, That's total vulnerability.
Yeah.
And the thing you talked about then, the thing that we said too the with the no separation between parent and child, as if taking that in charge position, that's total honoring.
Yeah.
Because you're not making, total honoring is the place where you don't create yourself as greater than somebody else. You see each and every person for what they're willing to choose and not expecting them to choose more.
And I think this honoring, actually, I was thinking of that one too. That is such a big part too. Like if you're willing to honor your child in
Mm-hmm.
the way for who they be, for who they truly
Yeah.
be, for everything they be,
Yeah.
that's gonna allow them to be so much greater in whatever way they are being. But that honoring is such an important part. That's when we don't act superior or
And
tell
it's
them
so
what to do.
empowering. It's
Like
like, it's
that's
so,
empowering. Yeah.
yeah, it's empowering because it's like if you looked at, like when we were saying before with the acting thing, it's like, because it's like not one of us on this planet has not acted like an asshole before. But what we do is when we've decided that we're being like that it's all that we don't have choice with it, that it's just part of us, so we don't actually get to choose it. Then what we do is we keep it secret based on the judgment we have of it. So we go, okay, asshole's bad. I am being an asshole. Asshole's a bad thing. So let me hide that. And you never actually get to have choice with it.
Yeah.
That's that place that it's like, if your kids know that they can choose anything, they can be everything. That's a meme right there. If your kids know that they can choose anything, they can be everything.
And it's really like if you're willing to be wrong, you allow your kids to be wrong. Like if you're
Yep.
willing to have that vulnerability, that's when you open that. That's when they don't have to go through life being right all the
Yeah.
time and that they're right.
What a
That
gift.
what a gift. Yeah. That
Yeah.
one thing, if you could give your kids that, then and the only way to do that is really to be that.
Yep.
So it's such a that's why I think kids teach us so much because we can't tell them what to do. We have to be what we would like to inspire them to
Yeah.
be. So we
Yeah.
have to step up. If we
Yep.
humanoids, if we want to be great parents, we have to step up with us so that we
Yeah.
can inspire them
And
to
if
that.
right and especially right now on this planet,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
if you want this, it's I was watching I'm gonna stay on topic, but just want to add this part in because you just triggered that as well. I like talking to you. It's like I watched this. I mean, all right. I just want to bring this energy up because it's like we're talking about, like, we talked about the new normal and the old normal and creating a better normal. I watched the David Attenborough thing the other night, the latest one that he's done, his witness statement of the planet. And when he looked at the projected future to 2100, to the year 2100, it's like, and I don't want to be significant about this or like, but whatever, I'm just going to bring it up because I can, is if we don't change our point of view, what future do we have? One of the things that I thought was brilliant that he said was, if I was born, because he's lived 93 years so far, what a man.
I so agree.
Total,
It's an
just
amazing film.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
Please, dear universe, dear universe, can I please meet him, please? But he said this thing, and he goes, so he was born in like 1930, whatever, not important. But he said, if I was born today, here's what my life would look like.
Yeah.
Because he went through the last 93 years of his life, and he showed how the world changed, and he showed how the forest coverage on the earth had changed as the population grew and the emissions grew with it. And then he showed if I was born today, but it's like if we looked at that right now and went, okay, so if our kids are born today, what future are they going to have?
Well,
How do we get to that? How do we create that?
And with most of what he's shown, our kids will live. Like even we will live part of it, but our kids will live the whole. He had a projection like of about 100 years in the future.
Yep.
And that is what they will live. Like my daughter is born on the same day as Greta, and Greta goes to her, like, the school, because she comes from here. And it's so interesting to realize that they teach her in school in Sweden. And and Millie said, it must be really weird to have like lessons about yourself. I'm like, yeah, that's probably a little strange. I agree, because she's back in school. And and she still stands outside the main government building every Friday. She still does that's how it all started. She would skip school on Fridays. She would stand outside that government building and do her demonstration. And then it grew and grew and grew. She still stands there. She still does that. And
Wow.
most of the teenagers, I think, today are pretty aware about that their future is kind of being, I don't know, I can't think of the word, like, destroyed. And they don't yet have, they, in their point of view, what they're seeing, and they feel kind of powerless. So this is also something for us. What I see is not going to the powerless, going to, it can change. And we have to be that. Yes, we can change this. This is possible to change, whatever way. It may look different for different people, but that's also one of the things that it's part of knowing that, being the change that they can also choose.
That's the big part. That's the big part, is being the change. Because it's like one of the things I notice, like when we talk about stuff like this, because it's like for a lot of people, they would look at it and go, yeah, but how am I going to change that? It's not how we change it. It's what can I be to change it? And this is the thing I love about consciousness. And I'm just going to go deep into this part too, because it's like, why not? I mean, we're on a platform right now.
We're already here.
It's like,
let's go.
We get to look at this stuff. It's like, fucking, I want to talk about it. I want to bring it up. But it's like, if you look at the times in your life right now where you have asked for something to change and it's changed, that's you. That is your reality. And that's the magic that you can create when you're willing to be in the question and you're willing to be you. So that's the thing, that it's like what Kat and I are talking about with this is, it's like empowering your kids to know that they can be them. That's all it takes. That's consciousness in action right there, because it's from that place of going, okay, no, that's not acceptable. What can I be to change this? That question alone is powerful beyond what you could even fathom. And that might sound like deep and blah, 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 but come on. And you've all asked for something and gotten it before.
Well, and also one of the things with Adam Burr's movie that I really liked is that he does show places where people already change things that if we apply them worldwide would change everything. Like, he really gives, if you haven't seen it, I think a lot of you probably have, but if you haven't, watch it, because it does end with, he just mentions a few, basically inventions that people who are looking for possibilities have found. Like, for example, in Netherlands, that they grow the plants on top, like
the hydroponic setups. It's brilliant.
In my sense is that if we allow the greatness of each being to come out, if we stop looking for, how to get it right, how to fit into the mold, and really allow the greatness of all the ideas, the different ideas that never even been considered before, to come out. That's what's required. What's required is our difference. What's required are the new ideas that haven't existed before. What's required is for them to come up and grow. And that's how we, as parents, like, how do we actually allow, whatever that is for our kids?
Can I tell you how we do it? Okay, can I just give away the answer straight up?
Do it.
Stop trying to get it right.
Yes,
as parents. As parents, and it might seem it might seem obvious, but it's so insidious. Because you won't even see, you'll be like, yeah, but this is the right, it's like, but what you said there is, it's really like, if we exposed to our kids the difference of us, that gives them the invitation to choose it for them too. But we've got to be willing to go, you know what's different about me that I'm not getting? And I loved it too. The other thing I loved about the David Attenborough thing was in the way that he talked about things, he didn't create separation between him and and the people on the planet. He didn't create separation between him and the planet either. He didn't go, well, this has been done by everybody else and it's been wrong. He said in every single thing he talked about, we have done this. We're all together on this planet and we're all creating it. We can't look at it from the place of separation, but what if, like him, one of us choosing something different was the invitation for everybody to see that it's a possibility? That's what I'd like to see, and that's what I'd like to see with the parenting stuff too. Is it's like, because you raise a kid that knows who they are, that knows they're different, that just goes, you know what, I'm happy, I'm joyful, I like me, whatever that is. They might be the weirdest, most undefined creature on the planet, but they like themselves. I want to meet them. I want to be around people like that. They're the people that are going to change the world. And we, more than ever right now, have that power. We have that potency to be us. But we have to choose it.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because even where we go, like what kind of kid would we like to meet or not meet? Like, this is also the part where I would say we don't even know what greatness could come if people were being them, because we have seen just tiny bit of it. So
you can't define true greatness either. You can't define it. It's like, it could be, I mean, for me, it's like when somebody doesn't have judgment, it's like they might choose to sit around and do nothing all day. When they don't have judgment, you're just like, oh, hi. You know, it's not, but it's not about defining what greatness is too, because that's what we do. Is we go into this place of do in order to prove that we're changing something. But what we've done our best of here, the judgment, what we've done
judgment, that is, and that really starts again with us. Then if we come to the parenting, it starts with us having no judgment about who we are as parents. And we can desire to be, and we can, do our darndest to explore what it is to be a parent for us with our particular kid or kids. And if we don't judge it, then it's like in constant motion, which makes it really such an adventure.
And that's it. And in constant motion, that's how you get out of judgment too, though. Because it's the constant motion of not judging that gets you out of judgment. It's not just a decision going, okay, I'm not going to judge anymore. I still judge. What? He does? Yes. But I know when I do it and I go, you know what? No, I'm judging this. I'm judging this as right. I'm judging this as wrong, good or bad or whatever it is. No, that's that constant motion that it takes to recognize that it's okay to judge still. Consciousness includes everything and judges nothing, including judgment.
And it's such a key that you can't judge that you judge. Because if you judge that you judge, then you're going to have to push it down. You don't want to see it. You have to be, like Brendon says.
You can judge that you judge. That's the way that you stay in judgment.
Well, it's kind of like you have to be willing to go, oh my God, that's like such judgmental of me. Oh my God, I'm going to choose something different now. But that means I can't have a judgment for that I'm judging, because otherwise I'm not even going to be willing to. So it really takes no judgment to be willing to be in no judgment.
Well, it takes interesting point of view about every single judgment that you have of you and everything. Interesting point of view. I have the point of view that I'm a judgmental shit right now. Yeah. Because that's the allowance for you that allows you to have judgment or not have judgment, but the judgment is only a choice from there on in. It's not a necessity, and it's also not a trap that you have to live in.
Yeah. Okay, that's amazing. Thank you.
That's thank you. It's like, I'm really grateful. These are cool conversations. I'm like, and like I said before, it's like with people that are listening, it's like, this is not about looking backwards on your life. Like if I was to look backwards on the last 15 years of parenting, I could pull millions of pieces out that I shouldn't have done. I did them. They're done. But each and every one of them, like that story that you told, Kat, about the that you learn the energy of that from that choice that you made. That's how we learn to navigate energy. You have to choose in order to create the awareness that the choice is going to create. Without the choice, you don't get the awareness. So be willing to know that you're gonna choose shit that's not gonna work. It's okay. But also go, okay, so what did that create?
And in the way like this, to start choosing is like strangely the very first step, because every choice creates that awareness. So yeah, I love this, not looking back and still playing the long game. Those two, like, okay, past isn't, it's not relevant. The long game is like the long game of parenting is
so
what's
I want to add a couple of tools in that you just sparked with that. So first tool is every day from now on, and you'll forget it on days, and don't worry about it. Write it down if you want to. So destroy and uncreate. So destroy and uncreate your relationship with your children every day. Everything my relationship is with my children up until now, I destroy and uncreate it. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And also everything I've defined myself as a parent. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. And the other thing right now I want to add in here is, if you're going, start choosing, how do I do that? Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to give you a tool, okay? Because it's like I've used this a lot lately. I mean, I was down in Mexico and I was just having a moment one day, and I was talking to Gary, and he goes, get outside right now and start doing 10 seconds of choice. And I went, okay. It's like, so take 10 minutes. Take 10 minutes. Go outside. If you can't go outside, walk around your house. Every 10 seconds, make a different choice. Okay, I've got 10 seconds to live the rest of my life. What do I choose? Oh, I'm going to go and pick that up. I've got 10 seconds to live the rest of my life. What do I choose? I'm going to smell that flower. I've got 10 seconds to live the rest of my life. What do I choose? Oh, I'm going to lie down. Okay, I've got 10 seconds to choose the rest of my life. What do I choose? I'm going to sit up. Now, the key with this is that you start recognizing that every single thing that you do is a choice. So you know how to choose already. It's just, what are you choosing? Now, give that a shot.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what else to talk about.
No, I think this is our ride, right? This was our way for this time.
Thank you so much for coming on. I adore you. You're just wonderful.
How did
Millie get so lucky to have you as a mum? I get to see you in 5 days.
Yes. And if you're coming to Turkey, you get to see us too. So maybe we'll see you there.
Thank
you so much. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Kat. Thanks, honey. Bye, everyone.